Hey friends, come on in, take your shoes off, have a seat, and consider staying a while by clicking that subscribe button. Welcome back to my series, Stockpile Meals, where I make an entire meal solely from my stockpile. I'm a firm believer that the #1 rule when stockpiling is eat what you stock and stock what you eat. So I have created this series on my channel to really just learn how to cook with my stockpile, learn what ingredients go together, what meals I can put together. So if something does happen, we are not just eating rice and beans. Today we're gonna make stockpile pizza. So you can make this several ways. You can make it completely from dry ingredients, which I will show you the sauce and the crust that I stockpile that lasts for 2 years and that is shelf stable and that you can make it out of. And what we usually use is cheese that we freeze. So some people don't count their freezer as like their stockpile. I for one do, because we stock up on items and freeze them. Now in an emergency situation, obviously you wouldn't have your freezer, and I realized that. So we also have bought a dried powdered cheese that is a 10-year plus shelf life that you can buy. Obviously it's not going to be the same consistency, and honestly it doesn't really taste as good as normal cheese, but that is an option. So we actually are not going to open up our powdered cheese tonight just because it is expensive, and since it has such a long shelf life, I want it to stay on the shelf just in case we're gonna need it. So I will be using just cheese from our freezer stockpile, but just know that that is an option if you are in an emergency situation and you cannot have regular dairy. All right, so this is the pizza crust that I do stockpile. I'm not even going to attempt to say the name of it because I know I will completely butcher it, but it is, we've had this for probably like a year, so you can see it will expire this September, so it's just under a 2-year shelf life. You can find different brands that actually will last over 2 years, but this was just what was on sale, and this is what I picked up and what we'll be using tonight. For the pizza sauce, I actually bought the same brand. Now, this brand was having a sale. I think they were like up to like 80% off or something like that. So I'm not brand loyal. It's not like I have to have this brand to make something. You'll find when you're stockpiling, the easiest way to save money is to just shop sales. So that is what I do, and that is how I stockpile, and I honestly don't think there's that much of a taste difference, but I'm also not a food snob, so some people might disagree with me. I was showing you the expiration date on this pizza sauce, and it actually has a closer shelf life of 2.5 years, so you'll just have to depend on, or just look at the brand and you'll see. And then obviously I'm going to be using some shredded mozzarella cheese for our topping. Again, if we were in an SHTF situation though, we could very easily use some powdered cheese, but again, this is what we are using tonight. I'm going to go ahead and set the oven to 450 degrees, that is Fahrenheit. And we are going to go ahead and get started. I just use regular baking sheets. We don't have like a fancy pizza one because we're poor. So I just use regular baking sheets, but I do make sure that I do spray them. And I'm just going to go ahead and follow the packaged instructions for this. Every crust you'll find is a little bit different. Obviously, it's going to be way more different if you're making it from scratch. But these homemade, or these already ready kits, are a little bit different. Essentially, you just have to add warm water to activate the yeast in it, though, most of the time. And you have to be kind of careful to not make your water too warm, or the pizza dough will not rise up. So I just added a little bit of warm water to that, and I'm going to make 2 separate bowls. My husband's being nice and helping me with the sugar, or the flour, since my hands are already all messy. And the instructions say not to roll it in the extra like flour, but I find that it like sticks and it doesn't get a pizza crust consistency if I don't. So that's how I make it. And obviously I'm just like rolling it out here. And I just try to make it as much of a circle as I can on this cookie sheet. You could make it in any shape you wanted to, or if you have a fancy pan, go ahead and use your fancy pan. But this is how This is how I roll. For this next step, I am going to be using butter and olive oil. I do stockpile both of these items. Butter, for an obvious reason, I put in the freezer. Again, you can get dried butter if we don't have a place to put normal butter. And then olive oil, because it's going to make our pizza taste really yummy. But I literally stockpile a bunch of different kinds of oils. I think they're so versatile and it gives you really good fats. I'm going to cover these with a towel and then put them on our warm stove to let that yeast activate and let the dough rise. And then I am going to form a crust on the outside of the dough so that we have something to hold on to when we're eating our pizza. My pizzas are never like professional looking or pretty, but they do always taste really, really good. And once I'm finished doing this, we're going to pop them in the oven and cook them. Now, usually you only cook them like 5 to 8 minutes because you are going to add your toppings on. So your dough shouldn't always, at this step, it won't be completely cooked because obviously you're going to put your toppings on and it will cook longer. Speaking of toppings, you can stockpile a variety of type of toppings. You can do dried cheeses, you can do olives, you could stockpile onions. They have everything really in a can, and you could, they have mushrooms in a can, honestly, it's an endless possibility of toppings, but we are plain Janes and we usually just both like cheese pizza. So that's all I'm using tonight. But obviously just know you can add any type of toppings you want. You can even pepperoni and that kind of stuff usually has a pretty long shelf life if you get the non-refrigerated kind. So just keep that in mind. I'm going to pop these back in the oven and let them cook. And about 8 to 10 minutes later, our pizza is done. For whatever reason, you can see underneath, it's completely done. But my outer crust, it never gets dark like what you see at restaurants. I don't know if it's their seasoning or their oven or whatever, but mine always looks really light. But just know it's done. And this is so much cheaper than ordering pizza. I want to say we made these pizzas for about $5. And they taste delicious. They're so good. And it's honestly one of our favorite things to make out of our stockpile. And I just hope this gives you an idea of things that you can make out of your stockpile. All right, we are so ready to go and have this for dinner. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to give this video a big thumbs up. It's free. It only takes a second and it really helps my channel out. And it also lets me know that you would like me to continue making these types of videos. And I'll catch you on the next one. Bye.